In the 13th century, Europe was a vast and intricate patchwork of kingdoms, duchies, and empires, each with its own rulers, customs, and ambitions. From the bustling markets of Paris to the quiet villages nestled in the Italian countryside, life was shaped by a delicate balance of tradition and change. The continent was a tapestry of languages and cultures, yet one force united nearly everyone: the Catholic Church. The Church's influence was absolute, reaching into every corner of daily life. Cathedrals soared above towns as symbols of faith and power, while priests and bishops guided the spiritual and moral lives of millions. The rhythms of the calendar, from feast days to fasts, were dictated by religious tradition, and the Church's authority was rarely questioned. Across the countryside, knights in shining armor patrolled the roads and guarded imposing stone castles. These fortresses were not just homes for nobles. They were centers of administration, justice, and defense. The sight of banners fluttering above castle walls was a constant reminder of the order and security that the feudal system promised, even as rival lords sometimes clashed for power. For most people, life was rooted in the land. Farmers and peasants toiled from dawn to dusk, their lives governed by the changing seasons and the demands of the harvest. Society was rigidly divided. Nobles ruled, clergy prayed, and peasants worked. Yet within these boundaries, communities thrived, sharing stories, traditions, and a deep sense of belonging. Europeans saw themselves as the center of a civilized world, surrounded by mystery and danger beyond their borders. Scholars pored over ancient manuscripts, nobles dressed in elaborate finery, and maps depicted Europe as the heart of civilization. Few could imagine that a force from the distant east would soon threaten everything they knew. Far beyond the familiar frontiers, the Mongols, nomadic horsemen from the vast steppes of Central Asia, were gathering strength. Masters of mobility and strategy, they lived in portable camps and moved with the seasons, their warriors renowned for their discipline and ferocity. Unbeknownst to Europe, these formidable conquerors were about to challenge the very foundations of European power and security. As dawn broke over the plains of Europe, an uneasy calm settled across the land. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the continent to its core. A clash of civilizations whose echoes would be heard for centuries to come. The Mongols, masters of the vast and windswept Eurasian steppe, were renowned for their unmatched skills as horsemen and warriors. For centuries, these nomadic tribes roamed the endless grasslands, living in harmony with their herds and the rhythms of the land. Their lives were shaped by the harsh climate and open spaces, forging a people who were both resilient and fiercely independent. Yet, despite their shared culture and traditions, the Mongols were long divided by deep clan rivalries and frequent feuds. Each clan was led by its own chieftain, and alliances shifted as quickly as the winds across the plains. This disunity kept them from realizing their true potential as a people. Everything changed with the rise of Temujin, who would become known to history as Genghis Khan. Through a combination of extraordinary military genius, unwavering determination, and strict discipline, he managed to unite the warring tribes under a single banner. Genghis Khan inspired loyalty and fear in equal measure, forging a new sense of identity among his people. Genghis Khan dreamed of an empire that would stretch from the Pacific Ocean in the east to the distant shores of the Caspian Sea in the west. His vision was not just of conquest, but of a world united under Mongol rule, where trade, ideas, and cultures could flow freely across continents. With lightning speed and ruthless efficiency, Mongol armies swept across Asia. Their tactics were revolutionary, using mobility, surprise, and psychological warfare to topple mighty empires and leave devastation in their wake. Cities fell, kingdoms crumbled, and the world watched in awe and terror as the Mongols advanced. By the early 13th century, the Mongol Empire had become the largest contiguous land empire in history, stretching across thousands of miles and encompassing countless peoples and cultures. The sheer scale of their dominion was unprecedented, reshaping the map of the world. But the Mongols' ambition did not end there. Their relentless drive and military prowess would soon bring them to the very doorstep of Europe, forever altering the course of history and leaving a legacy that endures to this day. The Mongol invasion of Europe was driven by a mix of ambition, need for new pastures, and pursuit of enemies who fled west. Their victories in Asia fueled confidence, and Europe seemed like the next prize. As Mongol armies gathered, their fearsome reputation spread, striking terror before a single arrow was loosed. Europe braced for a confrontation that would test its very foundations. The clash of civilizations was inevitable. In the spring of 1241, a chilling storm swept across Eastern Europe. The Mongols, renowned for their ferocity and tactical brilliance, launched a devastating two-pronged invasion into the kingdoms of Poland, Hungary, and the rugged lands of Transylvania. Their arrival was sudden and overwhelming, catching local rulers and their armies completely off guard. For many, the Mongols were a distant legend. Now, they were a terrifying reality at the gates. Batu Khan and the legendary general Subutai commanded their forces with unmatched discipline and speed. The Mongol cavalry, famed for their mobility and coordination, swept across the plains, striking with precision and vanishing before defenders could regroup. European armies, accustomed to slower, more rigid tactics, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. At the Battle of Legnica, Polish and German knights assembled in desperation, hoping to halt the Mongol advance. But the Mongols unleashed their signature tactics, feigned retreats that lured knights into deadly traps, and relentless volleys of arrows from horseback. The European lines crumbled, their armored knights falling to the precision of Mongol archers. Just days later at Mohi, the Hungarian army faced a similar nightmare. The Mongols struck with terrifying coordination, using smoke, noise, and psychological warfare to sow confusion. Hungarian soldiers, trapped and disoriented, were cut down in droves. The scale of the defeat sent shockwaves through the region. The Mongol advance exposed the deep military weaknesses of Europe. Armies that had once seemed invincible were shattered, their banners trampled, and their leaders in disarray. Survivors wandered the ruined fields, haunted by the speed and ruthlessness of their enemy. As word of the Mongol victories spread, panic swept across the continent. Villages emptied as terrified townsfolk fled, and nobles scrambled to fortify their castles. The heart of Europe trembled, uncertain if anything could halt the relentless tide of terror now surging toward its core. The Mongol onslaught caught Europe unprepared and divided. Rivalries and poor communication hampered any unified defense. European armies, reliant on heavy cavalry, struggled against the Mongols' speed and archery. Some commanders began to adapt, experimenting with light cavalry and new tactics. But these changes came too late to halt the Mongol advance. The continent's old ways were no match for the invaders. Mongol success stemmed from disciplined horsemanship and deadly archery. Light cavalry allowed them to strike quickly and vanish before counterattacks. Their composite bows rained arrows with lethal accuracy, while psychological warfare spread terror ahead of their armies. Feigned retreats and ambushes broke enemy lines and morale. The Mongols adapted to any terrain, exploiting every weakness. Their efficiency and ruthlessness made them nearly unstoppable. The Mongol invasion left Europe in shock and fear. Chroniclers painted the Mongols as monsters, their reputation growing with every tale of brutality. The psychological impact shattered Europe's sense of invincibility. Art and literature echoed the trauma, turning the Mongols into symbols of chaos and destruction. Their legacy haunted Europe for generations. The memory of the Mongol threat became a warning of civilization's fragility. Though brief, the Mongol invasion reshaped Eastern Europe's political landscape. The fall of Kievan Rus' paved the way for Moscow's rise and the future Russian Empire. Mongol rule opened new trade routes, fostering exchange of goods, ideas,